Prince Harry was allegedly spotted partying with Katie Nicholl, a Daily Mail television correspondent, while he is actively suing her employer in court. Let that absolutely jaw-dropping contradiction sink in for a moment. The man who has built his entire post-royal identity around being a victim of tabloid persecution, who has spent years and millions of dollars dragging associated newspapers through legal proceedings, who has delivered tearful testimony about the destruction the British press has caused his family, was reportedly socializing and having a grand old time with someone who collects a paycheck from the very outlet he claims has ruined his life. The irony here is not just staggering, it is absolutely mind-bending. Sources say Meghan Markle discovered this information the same way the rest of us did, through social media posts that went viral faster than you can say hypocrite. According to insiders, her reaction was nothing short of explosive. One person familiar with the situation described it as volcanic, saying Meghan felt completely blindsided and humiliated by her own husband. Here she is fighting her own reputation battles, hiring new publicists, trying desperately to rehabilitate her image after a string of public relations disasters, and her husband is allegedly out partying with someone who works for the enemy. You genuinely cannot make this stuff up. The timing could not possibly be worse. Harry is in the middle of active court proceedings against Associated Newspapers, the parent company of the Daily Mail. He has accused them of unlawful information gathering, of destroying his mental health, of tearing apart his family relationships. He has sat in courtrooms looking emotionally devastated while recounting the alleged horrors the tabloid press has inflicted upon him. And then, according to reports, he turns around and allegedly socializes with one of their most prominent royal correspondents, like none of that matters. Let us be brutally honest here. Either Harry genuinely believes the Daily Mail is evil incarnate, in which case, what the hell is he doing? Or this entire legal crusade is something far more performative than we have been led to believe. Insiders close to the couple are not holding back. One source told reporters that this is the kind of thing that makes people question whether Harry even understands the optics of his own life anymore. Another said bluntly that Meghan is reportedly beside herself, not just because of the betrayal of their shared mission against the media, but because she allegedly had no idea this was happening. The party prince, it seems, may be keeping secrets from his wife, and those secrets are now splashed across every gossip site on the internet. But the party itself is only half the scandal, and to understand why this has reportedly sent Meghan completely over the edge, we need to look at exactly who Katie Nicholl really is. Harry's legal war against the British tabloid press is not some casual lawsuit he filed on a whim. This is deeply personal, extraordinarily expensive, and by his own account, emotionally devastating. He has accused Associated Newspapers of phone hacking, of using private investigators to dig into his life, of publishing stolen information that violated his privacy in the most intimate ways imaginable. He has testified about the toll this has taken on his mental health, his relationships, and his ability to trust anyone. The stakes here are enormous, with damages potentially reaching into the tens of millions of dollars. Into this extraordinarily charged situation enters Katie Nicholl, a woman who occupies a fascinating dual role in the royal media ecosystem. She is simultaneously a royal expert who appears on television networks around the world, an author who has written extensively about the Windsor family, and a contributor to the Daily Mail who has covered Harry and Meghan's relationship from the very beginning. For those unfamiliar with how these things work, allow me to translate. Katie Nicholl is not just some random reporter who occasionally writes about royals. She is one of the most prominent voices shaping public perception of the Sussex story, and she does so from the pages of the very publication Harry is trying to destroy in court. The timeline here is absolutely critical. According to reports, this alleged partying occurred while Harry's lawsuit against Associated Newspapers was actively proceeding through the courts. Not before he filed, not after it concluded. During, he was allegedly socializing with someone employed by the defendant while simultaneously claiming that defendant has caused him immeasurable harm. Sources familiar with legal proceedings say this kind of behavior is at minimum extraordinarily unusual. At maximum, it could potentially undermine his credibility if opposing counsel decides to raise it. What makes this even more baffling is that Harry has repeatedly emphasized how much the media coverage has hurt him on a personal level. He has spoken about losing friends who were afraid to be associated with him because of tabloid intrusion. He has described the breakdown of his relationship with his brother William as partially caused by press coverage. He has portrayed himself as someone who has suffered tremendously at the hands of journalists who put profits over people. And yet here he is, allegedly hanging out with one of those very journalists like they are old mates catching up over drinks. The question everyone is asking is devastatingly simple. What was Harry thinking? One insider put it this way: either he has completely lost the plot, or he never believed his own narrative as strongly as he wanted us to. That is a brutal assessment, but given the circumstances, it is hard to argue with the logic. You do not typically socialize with representatives of organizations you are claiming have destroyed your life. But to understand why this has reportedly sent Meghan over the edge, we need to look at who Katie Nicholl really is, and what she has said about the Sussexes over the years. Katie Nicholl is not some obscure journalist Harry might have encountered without knowing her background. She is one of the most recognizable royal correspondents in the world, someone whose face appears regularly on American morning shows and British news programs discussing every twist and turn of the Windsor family saga. Her career has spanned decades, and she has written multiple books about the royals, including extensive coverage of Prince William and Kate Middleton that established her as a go-to expert on the younger generation of royals. She knows the palace beat intimately, and everyone who follows royal news knows exactly who she is. Here is where things get particularly uncomfortable for Harry. Katie Nicholl has not been neutral in her coverage of the Sussexes. Over the years, she has made comments and written pieces that have painted Meghan in a less than flattering light. Sources close to Meghan say these articles and television appearances contributed to the negative press tsunami that eventually drove the couple out of the United Kingdom. For Harry to allegedly socialize with someone who has been part of that critical coverage is, according to one insider, an absolute slap in the face to everything Meghan has endured. Nicholl's role as a Daily Mail contributor is particularly significant. This is not just any outlet. This is the publication Meghan sued and won against over the publication of her private letter to her father. This is the outlet that both Harry and Meghan have repeatedly singled out as one of the primary sources of their misery. The Mail has published countless stories about the couple that they have disputed, criticized, and in some cases legally challenged. For Harry to be allegedly partying with someone who writes for this publication is like a firefighter hanging out with someone who keeps setting fires. Insiders who know both Harry and Katie Nicholl say they find this alleged friendship completely baffling. One source told reporters that it makes absolutely no sense given their public positions. Another said they could not imagine a scenario where this would be acceptable given everything Harry has said about the tabloid press and the Mail specifically. The level of cognitive dissonance required to maintain this kind of dual existence, publicly attacking the media while allegedly privately socializing with its representatives, is genuinely difficult to comprehend. Royal watchers who have followed Katie Nicholl's career note that she has always maintained good relationships with palace sources. She is known for having insider access that other journalists envy, which raises its own set of questions. If Harry was reportedly socializing with her, was he also potentially sharing information? Was this a professional relationship masquerading as social? Or has Harry simply decided that the rules he publicly espouses do not actually apply to his private life? But the location of this alleged party and the circumstances surrounding it make everything even more suspicious, and the details are raising eyebrows across the royal watching community. The details emerging about this alleged party are fascinating, and depending on your perspective, deeply troubling. According to reports, the gathering took place during one of Harry's solo trips to the United Kingdom, away from Meghan and the children, in a setting where multiple media figures and social personalities were present. Sources describe the atmosphere as relaxed and friendly, with Harry reportedly appearing comfortable and at ease among people who, in theory, represent everything he has been fighting against. What strikes observers most is the stark contrast between courtroom Harry and party Harry. In legal proceedings, Harry has presented himself as someone deeply wounded by media coverage, someone who has suffered anxiety, depression, and trauma as a direct result of tabloid intrusion into his life. He has been emotional on the stand, at times appearing visibly distressed when recounting the impact of negative press coverage. That person seems almost impossible to reconcile with someone who allegedly spent an evening socializing and reportedly enjoying himself in the company of a Daily Mail correspondent. One insider who claims to have knowledge of the event said Harry seemed like a completely different person from the man we see in court. They described him as relaxed, laughing, apparently having a great time without a care in the world. Let that sink in for a moment. The same man who testifies about media-induced trauma allegedly shows no signs of that trauma when actually socializing with media figures. The implications of that observation are rather damning, regardless of your perspective on the Sussexes. Whispers about who else attended this gathering are adding fuel to the fire. Sources suggest several other journalists and media personalities were present, though names are being kept closely guarded. The picture being painted is of Harry operating in a social world that exists entirely separately from his public persona as a media victim. This is not an isolated run-in or an unavoidable professional encounter. This is, according to reports, deliberate socializing with people from an industry Harry has declared war on. The question of whether this was a one-time encounter or part of a pattern is now being examined closely by royal watchers. Some are pointing to Harry's frequent solo trips to the UK as opportunities for a social life that Meghan may not be fully aware of. Others are noting that Harry grew up in these media circles and may be reverting to old relationships now that he is away from Montecito's isolation. Either way, the optics are absolutely devastating for someone positioning himself as a principled crusader against press overreach. When word of this alleged gathering reached Meghan and Montecito, sources say her reaction was volcanic. and what happened inside that mansion reportedly shook the foundation of their relationship. Meghan Markle's reported reaction to discovering her husband had allegedly been partying with a Daily Mail correspondent was, according to multiple sources, absolutely explosive. One insider described the scene in Montecito as complete chaos, with Meghan allegedly feeling betrayed not just by Harry's actions but by the fact that she learned about them through viral social media posts rather than from her husband directly. The humiliation factor here cannot be overstated. While Meghan was in California fighting her own reputation battles, her husband was allegedly socializing with people from the very outlet they have both positioned as their mortal enemy. Sources close to the couple say Meghan viewed this as a fundamental breach of trust. Her own grievances against the British tabloids run extraordinarily deep. She has spoken publicly about suicidal ideation that she attributes partly to relentless negative coverage. She has described feeling hunted, unprotected, and deliberately targeted by a media establishment that could not accept a biracial American divorcee joining the royal family. For her husband to allegedly party with a representative of that establishment is, from her perspective, reportedly unforgivable. The timing makes this even more painful for Meghan. She has recently hired a new publicist amid ongoing struggles to rehabilitate her public image. Her Netflix series With Love, Meghan has faced criticism and mixed reception. Her various business ventures have experienced setbacks. She is reportedly working harder than ever to shift public perception, and then her husband allegedly goes and does something that makes them both look like hypocrites. One source put it bluntly, Meghan feels like she is pushing a boulder uphill, and Harry just rolled it back down. Insiders say private arguments about this incident have been intense. Meghan allegedly questioned whether Harry truly understands the stakes of their public positioning. She reportedly asked him directly how he could sit in court claiming emotional damage from the media and then socialize with media figures behind her back. These are fair questions, and according to sources, Harry did not have satisfying answers. The disconnect between his public victim narrative and his alleged private social life is something even his most loyal defenders are struggling to explain. What reportedly bothers Meghan most is the feeling that Harry operates by a different set of rules than she does. She has been relentlessly criticized for everything from how she holds her baby to the way she eats. Every move she makes is scrutinized and often condemned. Meanwhile, Harry allegedly goes to parties with tabloid journalists and somehow expects no consequences. The double standard, according to one source close to Meghan, is driving her absolutely crazy. But insiders say Meghan's anger goes far deeper than just one party, and the trust fractures this incident has allegedly caused reveal fundamental tensions in the Sussex marriage that have been simmering for years. The trust issues allegedly emerging from this incident are not appearing in a vacuum. According to multiple sources, there have been ongoing concerns within the Sussex marriage about transparency, control, and whether both partners are truly on the same page about their shared mission. Meghan reportedly believes deeply in their narrative about media persecution. Harry, some insiders suggest, may be growing weary of constant warfare with the press. This alleged party incident is reportedly bringing those underlying tensions explosively to the surface. Harry's history as the party prince is relevant here. Before Meghan, Harry was known for his wild nights out, his extensive social circle, and his sometimes questionable judgment about where and with whom he spent his time, the notorious Las Vegas photos, the various club outings, the reputation for being the fun Windsor who knew how to have a good time. Meghan, by most accounts, helped him mature and settle down. But old habits, as they say, have a way of resurfacing, and some observers are wondering if Harry is slipping back into patterns that his wife worked hard to break. What makes this particularly troubling for Meghan, according to sources, is the feeling that Harry is potentially undermining everything they have built together. Their brand, their credibility, their entire public positioning depends on being seen as unified victims of a cruel media machine. If Harry is secretly socializing with that machine's representatives, it makes their entire narrative look performative at best and dishonest at worst. One insider said Meghan reportedly feels like Harry is sabotaging their reputation for the sake of a fun night out. The power dynamics in the Sussex relationship have always been subject to speculation. Critics have suggested Meghan controls Harry, that she has isolated him from family and friends, that she runs their operation with an iron fist. Defenders argue this is sexist nonsense designed to undermine a strong woman. But this incident raises interesting questions about those dynamics. If Harry is attending parties Meghan does not know about, socializing with people Meghan would never approve of, is that evidence of independence or deception? Sources close to the couple have wildly different interpretations. Control issues are reportedly at the heart of many Sussex conflicts. Meghan, according to insiders, likes to manage their public image carefully. Every interview is strategic. Every appearance is calculated. Every social media post is vetted. The idea that Harry might be conducting a separate social life that could blow up publicly at any moment is reportedly her nightmare scenario, and blow up it has. The viral nature of this story is proof that Meghan's fears about Harry's judgment were perhaps well-founded. Meanwhile, royal watchers notice something strange about Harry's recent behavior that suggests this alleged party might be part of a larger pattern. Harry's solo trips to the United Kingdom have become increasingly frequent and increasingly mysterious. He travels for Invictus Games events. He travels for legal proceedings. He travels for occasional public appearances. But sources say there are gaps in these trips, periods of time where Harry's whereabouts are not publicly accounted for. What is he doing during those hours? According to some insiders, he is allegedly maintaining a social life that exists entirely separately from his Montecito existence, and Meghan may not have full visibility into what that social life looks like. The pattern here is notable. Harry arrives in the UK ostensibly for official business. He attends whatever event or court date brought him there, and then according to reports, he sometimes lingers. He allegedly meets with old friends. He reportedly attends gatherings that do not make it onto any official calendar. He is seen, according to sources, at places and with people that would surprise his American audience who know him primarily as Meghan's devoted husband and media persecution victim. Some royal watchers are speculating that Harry may be seeking connections outside Meghan's influence. Whether this is healthy independence or concerning distance depends on your perspective. But the fact that he allegedly attended a party with a Daily Mail correspondent without informing his wife suggests, at minimum, that he knew she would not approve. When you hide something from your spouse because you know they would be angry, that is a fairly clear indicator of trouble, regardless of what the something actually is. The contrast with William and Kate's unified public image is impossible to ignore. The Prince and Princess of Wales present themselves as an inseparable team. They attend events together. They coordinate their messaging. They appear genuinely aligned in their approach to royal duties. Whether that is authentic or carefully constructed public relations is debatable, but the image they project is one of partnership. Harry and Meghan increasingly seem to be operating on separate tracks, with Harry's UK social life existing in a completely different universe from Meghan's Montecito bubble. Sources say Meghan is reportedly aware of comparisons being made between the two couples and finds them infuriating. She believes she and Harry have a genuine relationship, while William and Kate are performing a role. But incidents like this alleged party make those arguments harder to sustain. If Harry is keeping secrets, if he is socializing with media figures his wife considers enemies, if he is maintaining relationships she knows nothing about, the Sussex partnership looks rather less solid than the Windsor one. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of this entire situation is what it means for Harry's ongoing court cases, and legal experts are raising serious questions about how this could affect everything. The legal implications of Harry allegedly socializing with a Daily Mail employee while suing the Daily Mail's parent company are genuinely fascinating. Legal experts consulted about this situation say that while it likely would not affect the technical merits of his case, it could absolutely devastate his credibility. Harry's lawsuits are not purely about proving facts. They are about convincing courts that he suffered genuine harm, that he deserves substantial damages, that his emotional distress is real. How does that argument hold up when he is allegedly partying with the so-called enemy? Opposing counsel in Harry's cases against Associated newspapers would almost certainly be interested in this information. While they may not be able to introduce it as evidence regarding the underlying allegations, they could potentially use it to undermine Harry's claims about the extent of his suffering. If he says tabloid coverage has caused him severe anxiety and an inability to trust anyone connected to that world, but then is photographed socializing comfortably with tabloid journalists, that contradiction is rather glaring. One legal observer said any competent lawyer would find a way to raise this. The optics problem extends beyond the courtroom. Harry has positioned himself as a crusader against media corruption, someone willing to sacrifice his relationship with his family, his homeland, and his inheritance to fight for accountability in journalism. That narrative requires him to be a true believer, someone so genuinely damaged by tabloid tactics that he will spend years and millions pursuing justice. Allegedly partying with people from the Target publication makes him look like a performer rather than a plaintiff. Sources say the damages at stake in Harry's various media lawsuits could reach into the tens of millions of dollars when combined. These are not trivial sums, they represent potentially life-changing money, even for someone with Harry's resources. If his credibility is undermined, if judges or juries become skeptical of his claims about suffering, those potential payouts could shrink dramatically. One insider who follows media law closely said Harry may have just cost himself a fortune for the sake of one party. There are also questions about whether Harry received legal advice about appropriate conduct during ongoing litigation. Most lawyers tell their clients to be extremely careful about their public behavior while cases are pending. Do not post inflammatory social media. Do not be seen doing things that contradict your claims, and certainly do not socialize with employees of the organization you are suing. If Harry ignored such advice, that raises questions about his judgment. If he was never given such advice, that raises questions about his legal team. The palace's reaction to all of this has been telling, and what sources are saying about the royal family's response reveals just how far Harry has fallen in their estimation. Buckingham Palace officially does not comment on matters involving Harry and Meghan, but sources close to the royal family are reportedly speaking volumes off the record. According to insiders, the general reaction to Harry allegedly partying with a male correspondent while suing the male has been a mixture of disbelief and dark amusement. One source reportedly said that no one at the palace is surprised anymore by Harry's ability to undermine himself, but that this particular incident is impressive even by his standards. The incident allegedly confirms what the royal family has reportedly believed for some time. Harry's judgment is fundamentally compromised. His ability to think strategically about consequences appears non-existent. His understanding of how actions connect to outcomes seems limited at best. These are devastating assessments from people who once hoped Harry would find his footing and perhaps eventually reconcile with his family. Instead, each new incident reportedly pushes that possibility further away. King Charles and Prince William are said to be particularly frustrated. Both have allegedly made overtures towards some kind of peace with Harry, and both have allegedly been rebuffed or had those overtures complicated by Sussex behavior. The idea that Harry would jeopardize his legal cases, his public credibility, and his marriage for a party allegedly attended by tabloid journalists reportedly confirms the family's sense that he is simply not thinking clearly. One royal insider put it harshly, saying they have given up trying to understand his decisions because there is no rational explanation. The reconciliation hopes that briefly flickered earlier this year appear to be completely extinguished by incidents like this. Sources say there was some optimism that time might heal wounds, that Harry might eventually tire of his California exile and seek to reconnect with his British roots. But every time such hopes arise, something happens to dash them: a critical interview, a revealing memoir excerpt, and now, allegedly, a party that makes Harry look either hypocritical or disconnected from reality. The palace has reportedly concluded that waiting for Harry to come to his senses is a losing strategy. There is also concern about what this means for the broader institution. Harry remains sixth in line to the throne, a member of the royal family whether anyone likes it or not. His legal battles against British media are watched closely by Republicans and monarchy skeptics, who see them as evidence of royal dysfunction. When Harry allegedly undermines those battles through his own behavior, it creates complications for the entire institution, not just for himself. As for what happens next in Montecito, sources paint a troubling picture of a marriage and a mission both under extraordinary strain. The Sussex marriage has weathered many storms, but sources say this particular incident has allegedly caused damage that may be difficult to repair. Trust, once broken, is notoriously hard to rebuild. And if Meghan genuinely believes Harry was keeping a secret social life from her, one that involved fraternizing with media figures she considers enemies, that is a fundamental breach regardless of whether anything inappropriate actually occurred. The secrecy itself is the problem. Insiders say the couple has been spending increased time apart in recent months. Harry's UK trips, Meghan's focus on her Netflix projects and business ventures, the general sense that they are pursuing parallel tracks rather than a shared path. This was already a source of concern among those who watch the Sussexes closely. The alleged party incident adds fuel to speculation that the Sussex partnership may be evolving into something quite different from the unified front they once presented. The bigger question hanging over all of this is whether Harry is secretly tired of the war. Meghan has been the driving force behind much of their media criticism, their legal battles, their confrontational approach to the British press and the royal family. Harry followed her lead, adopted her grievances, made her enemies his enemies. But what if he is exhausted by the constant conflict? What if he misses his old life, his old friends, his old country? What if partying with a Daily Mail correspondent is not hypocrisy, but a signal that he is ready to move on from battles that no longer feel worth fighting? This would be devastating for Meghan if true. Her entire post-royal identity is built on being Harry's partner in victimhood, the woman who was mistreated by the institution and the media alongside her husband. If Harry stops fighting, if he begins quietly reconciling with the world they fled, where does that leave her? Sources close to Meghan say this is reportedly her deepest fear. Not just that Harry might leave, but that he might abandon the narrative that has defined their lives together. The coming months will be revealing. Harry's legal cases continue to work through the courts. Meghan's Netflix show and lifestyle brand are launching. The couple faces pressure from multiple directions, professional and personal. Whether they can present a unified front after this incident, whether they can convince the public that they are genuinely aligned, whether they can convince each other, remains very much an open question. Do you think Harry partying with a male star is a betrayal of Meghan, or a sign he is ready to move on from the media wars? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting and you will not believe what is coming next.